Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. Hope you had a nice Labor Day. 10 days until a massive strike of United Auto Workers from GM, Ford, Stellantis, and apparently Union Joe, President Joe Biden, thinks he knows something we don't. And thankfully, the United Auto Workers is calling Biden's bluster out. If you don't know, Biden weighed in on a strike saying he doesn't think it's going to happen, which was news to the United Auto Workers, who are extremely, extremely prepared and already doing practice pickets, practicing striking ahead of what, again, would be 150,000 workers going on strike. Let me read you Biden's bluster here. Fain shocked at Biden's opinion that an auto strike is unlikely. With 10 days to go before the United Auto Workers contracts with the Detroit automakers expire, Union President Shawn Fain pushed back on President Biden's claim on Monday that an auto strike is unlikely. Speaking in Philadelphia, where Biden traveled to speak at a Labor Day parade, the president was asked about the potential for an auto strike. Nah, I'm not worried about a strike until it happens. I don't think it's going to happen. I thought Biden had the pulse on the working class here. Asked about Biden's remarks at Detroit's Labor Day parade, Fain said he was shocked at that reaction. Quote, he must know something we don't know. Maybe the companies plan on walking in and giving us our demands on the night before. I don't know, but he's on the inside on something I don't know about, Fain told reporters. Our intent is not to strike. Our intent is to get a fair agreement. That's been our intent from day one. But as we get down to the wire here, there's 3 companies to bargain with, and there's 10 days left to do it. So I know what it looks like to me. His remarks came at the end of Monday's parade in Corktown, where thousands gathered to march down Michigan Avenue. This was a Labor Day parade. So Biden, I don't know if he is having some back channel discussions with the automakers, GM, Ford, and Stellantis, trying to push them to offer something resembling dignity for the workers. I doubt it. Again, we live in the United Corporations of America, and Biden is one of the humble servants for the corporate ghouls like Ford, GM, and Stellantis. But kind of a suspect, odd comment to make if you are supposedly the labor president and, such a friend of workers. Not worried about it. It's not going to happen. Well, it very much looks like it's going to happen. Like Fain said, maybe he knows something we don't. Kind of an arrogant, tone-deaf comment by Biden. Not really surprising. I'm not saying this because it happens to be me, but the UAW is kind of calling Biden out. This might seem like a small thing, but I tweeted this morning, UAW President Shawn Fain rejects Biden's bluster that massive strike isn't going to happen. He must know something we don't know. UAW retweeted it. Reposted, whatever we call it now on X, formerly known as Twitter. By the way, I've been clearly shadow banned on Twitter. All of a sudden, I'm getting zero reaction or retweets and losing followers. I had 125,000. Now suddenly I'm losing followers and barely get any retweets. So if you're not seeing my tweets, make sure you follow me at Jordan Chariton and put on notifications for my tweets. Anyway, not a small thing that the UAW is publicly, as reporters are following their, handle and Twitter account 10 days before the strike to endorse basically me and the thought of Biden's bluster. This is not the days of the old bosses at the UAW who are in bed with the Democratic Party and the bosses. Fain is not shy. The UAW is not hesitant to call out Biden, including agreeing that he's full of bluster. I would have said bullshit, but, that's fine. Fain was actually on CNN yesterday. And of course, CNN was only interested about the fact that he has not endorsed, the United Auto Workers have not yet endorsed President Biden. Let's take a look at Fain's response.
You are clearly not afraid to break the mold here, and one of those issues is involving an endorsement for the Democratic president, in this case, President Biden, and his endorsement for re-election. Is an endorsement from your union contingent upon a deal with the White House on these specific demands that you have related to his Inflation Reduction Act, and that is subsidies for electric vehicles? You would like some contingencies based upon that for guarantees for employees too.
Well, it's back to the same old story. When the corporations come to the government with their hand out, the government always delivers billions and billions of dollars. But when the working class people show up and say, we want our share, we want our equitable share, there's always a reason why it can't happen. When it comes to endorsements, our endorsements are going to be earned. And so, actions speak louder than words. So, we will make endorsements when the time is right. And we feel like, the candidates have shown and have delivered for our members' needs and for the working class needs.
Actions speak louder than words. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Maybe the progressives in Congress can learn a little something about leverage, using power, carrying a big stick, shall we say, from this UAW president. I mean, I've never met the man. I hope to interview him when I'm on the ground covering this strike, if it happens. Hint, hint, sign up today to support Status Coup's on the ground reporting. I would love to be on the ground, primarily in Detroit, maybe Ohio too, covering this strike on the front lines, from the picket lines. For you Status Coup OGers, you saw us. I was on the ground covering the John Deere strikes in Iowa, Illinois. We were on the ground covering nurses' strikes in Buffalo, New Jersey, a couple other places. Love to be on the ground, but it costs money to be there, especially for, a week or so. So please, if you can, sign up. There will be a lot of channels covering it from the confines of their comfy studios. Not a lot out there on the ground giving the microphone to the workers to get their voices out there and counter the corporate media propaganda. But I like what Fain is doing here. Again, he is not just giving away the keys to the Democratic Party and getting nothing for an endorsement of Biden. He is basically putting Biden and the Democrats on notice. Our 150,000 workers who are overwhelmingly supporting this new militant stance of Fain against the big three automakers, overwhelmingly 97% voted to authorize going on strike from all three companies. I think the endorsement from him will carry big weight with those workers, many of whom probably voted for Trump. There's liberals in these types of unions. There's conservatives. There's people who don't vote. So Biden, it's very important he gets this endorsement, particularly in a massive swing state like Michigan. Wisconsin's got an auto industry, obviously, Pennsylvania. And Fain, rightly so, is holding out. He's not just handing it over. So bravo. I very, very, very much hope that this militant stance of exerting power continues. And I also like the fact that Fain called out Biden. Maybe he knows something we don't, because as far as we know, we're going on strike in 10 days. This is very different than the yesteryear of adherence and surrender by unions to the Democratic Party and the corporations, and just endless deference for fear of upsetting the Democratic Party. Let's also show you a clip. This is from an interview I did with retired General Motors worker Frank Hammer. Was there over 20 years as a General Motors worker. Very, very active still in the union. Would definitely be on the picket lines if this goes to a strike. I interviewed him over the weekend, and I thought something he had to say was very interesting. Let's take a listen.
So I think that we're kind of already into a domino effect. We had the John Deere strike, we had the Volvo strike, we had a variety of strikes. I'm just talking about UAW, but elsewhere. And there seems to be an emergence of a working class movement. And that will have an incredible spillover. In 2019, we saw small businesses in the Detroit area that were pitching in. And I mean, they would be bringing like 40 cartons of pizza to the picket line. And these are small businesses that are very much relate to the plight of to workers, because they know their livelihood is at stake as well. And I think that we're going to see that. I think that I've seen support statements already from various groups here in Detroit, non-auto, but who identify with auto. And I think I think the message that Shawn Fain is putting out is reaching a lot of ears, well beyond. And like I was giving that example earlier, of just workers at Kroger who are responding to the message. And I want to say, I look at this from an international perspective. In 2019, I don't know how many auto workers know that GM workers in Mexico were in solidarity with our GM strike here at home. And they resisted forced overtime. They resisted speed up. Some got fired. And that show of solidarity from across the border is probably something that we're going to see grow as well. And we should nurture it. And we, in turn, should be expressing our solidarity with a GM worker that happens to speak in a language that's not different from ours, Spanish. But he or she are fighting for the same things that we are. And the sooner and the quicker that we unify and we work together to collaborate with each other, and the kind of example that they set in 2019 in Salao, Mexico, we're going to be stronger. And I look forward to that day when we're on solidarity in multiple countries. And I think you just had a report on, we're potentially going to be out maybe with Canadian workers. And maybe we can expand that and grow that to Ford in Europe or to GM in Mexico. We'll see.
International solidarity. Hey, wouldn't that be a thing? As I reported last week, the workers for Unifor, which is the auto union in Canada, about 18,000 workers, their contract ends 4 or 5 days after the United Auto Workers in America. So you could see, obviously, less workers on strike. But if you have 150,000 workers on strike here in America, plus 18,000 in Canada, you got that bridge from Detroit to Canada. That would be a powerful sight. I would love to head to Canada, too, to cover those strikes. Hint, hint, sign up, statuscoup.com/join for our wonderful Canadian audience, $5 a month. Listen, I really hope with all this coverage, well, let me rephrase. Obviously, as much as I'd love to cover a strike, there's nothing like it. The solidarity, the camaraderie, the energy, just the togetherness of the working class. I would much prefer them get the contract they deserve, and there not have to be a strike. But I secretly would love to cover a strike. But I think at this point, it would be very, very difficult to foresee, all three companies coming to the table with, a dignified, sufficient offer when you have, as Shawn Fain reported last week, Ford was offering a 9% wage increase, which might as well be a pay cut when you factor in inflation and all the wages these workers have got given back over the years. So far, Stellantis and General Motors apparently have not really offered anything in terms of economics or wages. There's so many other things other than just the wages that need to be negotiated. So I don't see how it would be possible at this point to get some type of agreement in 10 days. So I think it's very likely we're headed for a strike. Obviously, the media is most fixated on presidential politics. I'm not saying that has, no importance, but to me, in terms of the working class, the progressive movement, the proletariat, this is the most important story in the United Corporations of America. And that's why I'm doing so many videos on it, because the auto industry, it kind of has tentacles into everything else. If the auto industry goes on strike, it affects so many other industries in terms of Michigan and a lot of these other industries, even though the auto industry has been battered and so much offshoring has gone on, it is still a top employer in so many cities and states. So this has huge ramifications across the board. I think Biden, instead of putting out his blusterous bullshit, might want to roll up his hands and get sleeves and get on the phone. And since he's such a labor guy, tell these CEOs making $20, $25, and $30 million a year for Ford, Stellantis, and GM, sorry, the jig's up. You got to actually offer something dignified for these workers. So we'll continue covering this. I will be interviewing more workers this week. Other interviews we've done with these workers are up on the channel, so definitely check that out. And thanks as always for your support.